following episode contains spoilers. If you don't want me to ruin the movie for you, pause this podcast and come back when you've seen it. From this point on, everyone is at their own risk. Sincerely yours, Management. Welcome everyone to Lights Camera Podcast, a program dedicated to all those cinema lovers. I'm Sofia Erler and I'm glad to be one more episode here with you. In this episode, we'll be talking about Mean Girls, the movie that stars Lindsey Lohan that till this day has us laughing and talking about it. As always, I invite you to get comfy and grab some snacks. With no further ado, let's get down to this episode. Katie Heron is a 16-year-old homeschooled girl who not only makes the mistake for falling for Arian Samuels, the ex-boyfriend of Queen Bee Regina George, but also unintentionally joins the Plastics, led by Regina herself. Join Katie as she learns that high school life can be really tough, and not only because of the classes. This movie was directed by Mark Waters, also known for directing Freaky Friday in 2003, and it also features great actresses like Lindsey Lohan, Rachel McAdams, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Amanda Seyfried, amongst others. This movie is based on the book published in 2002, Queen Bees and Wannabes by Rosalind Wiseman. Okay, Mean Girls. That film that has left us with a cultural impact for now 16 years, has set trends, memes, and has also been an inspiration for new movies and teen series. And you know what I'm about to say. If you haven't watched this movie, what are you doing? Like, seriously, guys, I have people listening to my podcast telling me like, oh, I just listened to the Scott Pilgrim episode. I think I'm gonna watch that movie. And I'm like, are you gonna watch it for like the 5th time? No, I'm gonna watch it for the first time. I'm like, what? What are you doing, guys? If someone hasn't watched Mean Girls, I mean, stop. What are you doing? Okay? Now, a little bit of history to make you understand. Mean Girls came out in 2004, and it has impacted every generation since. But Mean Girls isn't the first movie that deals with high school drama. Okay, let's go back in time, okay, to 1989 with the movie Heathers, where we explore the psychology of the Queen Bee, which is one of the Heathers, and Veronica, an outsider, explores high school through the eyes of this Queen Bee. Now, let's go forward 6 years to 1995. That year, Clueless was released, a teenage film about the lives of popular girls in high school and how they will cope with their problems and other things, you know? So, Mean Girls wasn't the first movie with plots like pretty girls and popularity and getting the guy and overthrowing the Queen Bee. My point is that every movie has its own impact and it triggers people to generate things from that or to take inspiration from that. For example, after Mean Girls came out a few years later, there were series where the plot revolved around girls surviving high school or overthrowing the Queen Bee so I wouldn't have a hierarchy anymore, but then I became the hierarchy. For instance, in 2007, the well-known series Gossip Girl came out, which itself has a lot of the Mean Girl characteristics, starting with the Queen Bee complex and its power over the school, captured in Blair Waldorf, and how you getting into that circle can clearly change you, but Gossip Girl is for another episode, maybe. Then in 2011 comes a horrible, and I mean horrible, sequel to the Mean Girls movie titled Mean Girls 2, and I'm not even gonna get into that, because that's just horrible. In 2015, a series and a movie with the same or more or less characteristics of Mean Girls were released. First, we have Scream Queens. You know, the series, where we have a Queen Bee, and you know the drill. Queen Bee, minions, anyone who comes near her can be corrupted by her power, whatever. And then we have the movie The Duff, that many people said it was the Mean Girls of this generation. I mean, bitch, no, you can't say that. I know it has, the Queen Bee status, and a girl from an outer circle feeling like an outcast and trying to get the boy, but no, it's not the Mean Girls of this generation. You shut your mouth. It's not even worthy of that commentary. And who knows how many more series and movies have come out with references to Mean Girls. And that's why I wanted this to be my main point, so you can see how this movie is so important. This movie is so important that I've literally heard a lot of people saying, on Wednesdays we wear pink, or that's so fetch, or beware of the plastics, or she doesn't even go here. You get it, right? People using quotes from the movie. So that's how hilarious this movie is. Okay, so, and to add to this movie is so iconic that on October the 3rd, everyone remembers that Aaron Samuels asked Katie for the date, and she said, it's October 3rd. So yes, my point with this is to let you know that this film is iconic. You now have that tattooed for life. Now, let's talk about the film. And I want to start by talking about some of the cast. Starting with Lindsey Lohan, the one that's supposed to be the star of the movie. She was already famous for Parent Trap in 1998, Freaky Friday in 2003, and Confessions of a Typical Teenager in 2004. And for me, her role and acting in this movie are just bleak. Like, meh. I understand she's the main character, and she somewhat was a victim in the movie and whatever, but for me that's not much. I mean, I know she's the main character, I know she's the narrator of the story, but she just doesn't work for me. Now, for me, the actress who stole the show was Rachel McAdams in her role of Regina George. Rachel was already kind of recognized for her role in The Hot Chick in 2002. Mean Girls was the one that catapulted her to many other things. And for me, she was the center of attention of the film. And not only for the bitchy attitude and her amazing gestures, but because of the way she impersonated Regina George. For me, that's how a queen bee should look like. And again, for me, she's the best queen bee of television, even better than Blair Waldorf herself. Then we have the dynamic duo of comedy, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I know they don't appear in the movie very often, but the few times that they do, it's freaking hilarious. These women, no matter what they do, are spectacular. I personally love them. And a fun fact is Tina Fey took this movie to Broadway and turned it into a musical. That's how amazing this movie is. It already has its own musical, which I do highly recommend that you go listen. Now, the plot. As I mentioned, for me, the plot is It's not philosophical, it's not deep, it doesn't have like any wow meaning. But what makes you want to stay and watch the movie is all the comedy and satire that they put into it. And I think it's much better that way. Instead of series like Scream Queens or fucking Riverdale, which put too much drama into it, the comedy of this movie is what makes you want to stay and see what happens next. But just because the plot of Mean Girls is about this girl possessed by power and a queen bee and how she goes as she pleases doesn't mean we don't have a few things to learn from it. Number one, we know that power corrupts. And we can see that when Katie is turning herself more like Regina and she starts working on more sabotage plans, and in the end everything explodes on her face, giving us, a lesson that number 2, everything we do will come back to bite us in the ass. Karma, they call it. For example, I know this is gonna sound mean, but Regina got hit by a bus, guys. I think that was like punishment enough. If that's not a sign, I don't know what it is. And Katie, she got separated from her friends. She was blamed for Regina's accident, and even though she wasn't hit by a bus, she did have some consequences. And for me, the most important lesson, and a very interesting one, is number 3. The fact that women should stop criticizing and pointing at each other. Women should stop calling each other bitches and whores and skanks, and because that gives men the power to treat us like this. So girls should be there for each other and support each other and not judge each other or whatever. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I think that for me, the movie does revolve around that, and how women go to lengths to sabotage each other and manipulate each other. And this not only happens in high school, guys. I'm in college, and I still see girls going at each other, manipulating each other, sabotaging, stealing boyfriends. I think this is what the movie wants to bring out. The fact that women should stop doing this. And I think it's a pretty good message. But still, this is an amazing and super funny movie to watch. For me, it's still a gem, and it's still gonna be a gem. And now, I'll give you the rates given to this movie. IMDb gave it a 7 out of 10, Metacritic gave it a 66%, and Rotten